Ah! Sideswipe, we have to get out of here. He's too strong for us. Yes, you might be right. Quickly, hop on. Oh, run as much as you like, traitor. Soon, there's nowhere for you Decepticons to hide. The two characters I wanted the most in the Modern Shattered Glass collection in a 2-pack together? How could I refuse? Let's start with the Decepticons of Sideswipe, and that big triangle on his roof is his Minicon Whisper. If we flip his legs underneath himself, we can see that he's a little stealth bomber, but I don't know how stealthy he can be, really, with this giant yellow stripe covering half the plane. In robot mode, he admittedly doesn't look that much like a Transformer, with his tiny head that doesn't have a face, and he has these hands that look like electrical plugs. Given how these new TFs don't have super weapons for a Minicon to activate, he technically has nothing to do, other than be an SG version of the jetpack Sideswipe had that one time because Sunbow got him confused with Sunstreaker. Speaking of Sideswipe, he is one of those characters where his shattered glass colors are based on putting him in someone else's style, and he's rocking the Pantones of the Generation 2 character Drench, which was originally done as a repurpose of a cancelled universe repaint of Armada Wheeljack into Drench. And because that mold has always looked like Sideswipe anyway, it was recreated by just taking the Kingdom Sideswipe and changing out the front for a new one, giving us that giant logo with a gash through it. You'd think all the characters that have this design would have gotten that injury patched up and the Autobot logo removed, but whatever. So I brought up in the Toxitron collection video that I'm not the biggest fan of this mold, but I greatly preferred that version of it, if only because of his crazy colors. And this version is not that level of crazy, but still more lively than the original one. That said, the remolding does sadly give him a new problem, because the new hood is a bit shorter than the original, and now he has this hole in his gut, and unlike the one above it, it isn't supposed to be there. It's just so odd, and I can't stop my eyes from drawing to it. Also not the biggest fan of how his head came out. It's just really tall, and his horns look so tiny. This design normally just has a feeling of being cool, and here it's just odd. Like he doesn't look horrible, but it's just not as good as it could. It really makes me not want to get the eventual Armada Wheeljack we'll get from this toy. For armament, he has his beaten sticks, in the same mint green color as him, and these have some cool details. They are a lot more boxy this time around, due to them not having to double as missiles this time, and they still have the vents cut into them, which you can use when they're tabbed into the car mode to pretend he can fly through the skies like the rest of his Decepticon buddies. He also has the shoulder cannon, and I don't get why. It can't be that the toy was made in a way where every version comes with this, because Red Alert didn't. Is it here just because this is a Sideswipe thing? He doesn't look bad with it, I just don't get why it's here. All in all, he is a decent modernization of this Sideswipe. Maybe not as great as that Toxitron version, but he's not an unwelcome figure. It just feels like his Minicon does a lot of the heavy lifting. Now, let's look at the true overlord of the Autobot Empire, and the Shattered Glass take on my favorite Transformer of them all, Rodimus, taking the Studio Series 86 version of Hot Rod and putting him in these beautiful Motormaster-inspired colors. Not to mention those blood red headlights and windows, really making him radiate evil energy. Overall, this car mode is a great take on the Dome Zero inspired form he is known for taking on. That said, we do have to talk about this spoiler, because this is a Hot Rod mold, but that is not a Hot Rod spoiler, that is the Rodimus Prime spoiler. Yes, there is a difference between their spoilers, and it does not look right to have it on the wrong body. It just hangs too far back from the car, feels like a hazard for other drivers. Plus, there is how it looks in the robot mode, just rising above the rest of the body. That works well on the more heroic champion look of his Prime body, but on his more youthful original look, it's just not as good as having it rest behind his arms like it's supposed to. Other than that, this robot mode is a spot-on take to the animation model in 3D, just given some sick goth tones, and that ever well-known evil Spock mustache goatee combo. This detail is a joke on how Galvatron was voiced by Leonard Nimoy, wasn't it? And because he is that Studio Series mold, his head can pop open to reveal a set of ruby red shades, just to add to his coolness. Now, when we put him next to the classic version, there is one thing SG does way better, and that is the color matching of his joints to the rest of the robot. The original has them in the same yellow as his spoiler, and it just stands out in a bad way, especially on his knees, whereas the gray on the bad boy version blend in perfectly, making a flawless looking robot. With his glossy black paint and the purple flames on his chest, he's a wonderful update to the shattered glass version of the character. And if you don't care about that stuff and still want this rockin' bot, you could get a 3D printer and make a new head based on the old Stuntron Wild Rider from the Gente Gente line. Because this look was so cool, Japan needed its own version back in the day. He of course comes packed with everything the first one did. Those blast effects that seem to be made more for giving his vehicle mode some crazy exhaust, like a callback to the classics toy, but they can also be used to emulate him firing his pipe cannons. And for extra firepower, he has his guns. And I never really liked these things. I know he's had them ever since his original toy, but they just never felt right. When he has arm pipes as guns already. It's just the Rodimus Prime Photon Eliminator split in half, and that gun never felt redundant like these do because it was a sniper rifle, and these are just toy guns, and he really doesn't need them. What he comes with that is actually pretty cool is you can flip his hands into the arms, and on the right, he has the welding torch he used to fix Cup in the movie, and probably used to tear him apart in this universe. On the left, he has a peg that seems to be a bit bigger than the normal 5mm ones Transformers normally use, so it can't connect to any random weapons, sadly. But it does give him his buzzsaw for cutting his enemies to pieces. It's a nice touch, and if Prime has to always have his axe nowadays, then why can't Rodimus have his buzzsaw? And of course, he also has the Matrix, which is in a different color than Prime's, which is just a result of gang molding, but we could pretend that it means Prime's is just a fake. Plus, it comes with the effect of him using his chosen one power to unleash it upon the world, destroying all life and causing endless terror, just as SG Primus wanted it. Honestly, this is a pretty nice 2-pack. I don't know if I'd call it my favorite of the modern Shattered Glass releases, but it's a good continuation of this twisted TF universe that I love so much, and I hope to get more characters added to it in the future.